Today, I'm making my picks for every round of the NASCAR Cup Series Playoffs. I could just throw up my bracket, be done with it, but where's the fun in that? Where's the suspense? I've been looking forward to this one. I need redemption after my way too early preseason playoff predictions blew up in my face. Kyle Busch, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt.
Don't remind me.
Both RFK Fords will make the playoffs.
Oh, jeez.
Ross Chastain, yes, he'll make the playoffs this year. I'm convinced. I'm very high on Legacy Motor Club. I got Bubba Wallace making the playoffs for the second straight year.
I just threw up in my mouth a little.
So what, I went 11 for 16 back in January. That is an all-time low for me and this show. But that's why, as you can see, I'm very excited for today. Today is the day I exact my revenge. 16 drivers enter, only 4 can make it to Phoenix. 1 will be crowned champion. There's a lot of history on the line here. Right now, there's a 4-way tie for most Championship 4 appearances all time. Joey Logano, Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, and Martin Truex Jr. have been to 5 Championship 4s each. Logano or Truex could find themselves in sole possession of that record at season's end. I value Championship 4 appearances highly. College basketball teams hang banners for Final Four appearances, so should NASCAR teams. So there is a lot on the line, top to bottom here. Let's dive right in, beginning with the round of 16. Kicks off at Atlanta, new to the playoffs, Watkins Glen, and then wraps up with the Bristol night race, one of my yearly favorites. Atlanta is extremely unique. It races like a small super speedway, but we've already seen that surface begin to age. We had that fantastic 3-wide finish in February. Watkins Glen is perhaps the most traditional road course on the NASCAR schedule, but Goodyear is bringing an extremely soft tire, one they said falls off 4 seconds over a single fuel run. Then, of course, Bristol is Bristol, baby. Last year, we saw Joey Logano get caught up in a crash and knocked out in the first round. There's usually at least one surprise elimination in the round of 16. Who could that be this year? Let's go down the list. You see how many playoff points each driver enters with? Again, you can rack up additional playoff points by winning races and stages during the playoffs, but this is how things currently reset. Let's start with Kyle Larson. I think Larson makes it through the first round. He is a good road course racer and has 5 straight finishes of 6th or better at Bristol, including a win in the night race in 2021. I also think Christopher Bell is safe as long as that TRD motor does not fail him. Just survive Atlanta. Reddick has been red hot, finishing in the top 10 in 11 of the last 13 races, just won Michigan. I think he moves on. William Byron is the defending Watkins Glen winner, and he's won at New Atlanta twice in 5 races. Blaney hasn't finished worse than 12th at a road course this year and has 4 straight top 10s at Atlanta. Denny Hamlin, meanwhile, is lucky to have Bristol in this round. Drafting tracks look different in this new car, and Denny Hamlin's average finish at Daytona, Talladega, Atlanta in the next-gen era is 21st. He did finish 2nd at Watkins Glen last year, but losing all of those playoff points recently is going to hurt. Maybe not in this first round, but for sure in the 2nd and 3rd rounds. Hamlin has earned the 2nd most stage points of anyone all year. Stage points become very important these final 10 weeks. Well, final 9 weeks, I guess, don't really matter at Phoenix, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Next, it's been 10 races since Chase Elliott's last top 5 finish. Fortunately, he has a strong history at Watkins Glen. He's the 2022 Atlanta winner. I at least trust Chase to not make any big mistakes this opening round. That could be all it takes. Brad Keselowski has me a little worried. He has 1 top 10 finish in 15 next-gen road course races. I expect Brad to be good at Bristol. He finished top 5 there in the spring. He was one of those savvy vets who was good at saving tires. I just hope he doesn't leave Atlanta below the cut line. I expect him to be fast at Atlanta, but anything can happen. If he's below the cut line after Atlanta, I think it will be a hard hole to dig out of. Joey Logano always makes the Championship 4 in even-numbered years. So it's hard to doubt him, but he is limping into the playoffs this season with 3 finishes outside the top 30 in his last 5 races. His teammate Austin Cindric has to earn stage points at Atlanta. Fortunately, he was strong there in the spring, even won a stage. He also won a stage at Daytona just a couple weeks ago. He needs a big day this weekend because I don't trust Cindric at road courses anymore. He has an average finish of 16th over the last 2 years. I think Daniel Suarez has this weekend circled as well. He enters these playoffs having scored the 2nd fewest stage points of any of these guys. He's been on a pretty good roll lately, 8th at Indianapolis, 10th at Richmond, 8th at Michigan, and he is the most recent Atlanta winner. He's been a good road racer historically, but does not have a top 10 finish this season. Watch out for Daniel. Alex Bowman, meanwhile, has lost all momentum. He had a good top 10 streak early in the year, obviously won Chicago, but he has an average finish of 24th over his last 5 races. Now he's having to answer questions during media day about whether or not he still has a ride for next season. He's a good road racer though, finished top 5 at COTA in the spring. He also finished 4th at Bristol in the spring. Frisky Chase Briscoe, he showed us at Darlington he is full of surprises. But that Darlington win was his first top 10 in 9 races. Harrison Burton, another driver who needs to have a big day at Atlanta. He needs to earn stage points. He almost needs to win. I say that because he's not earning stage points or winning Watkins Glen or Bristol. I don't think he finishes top 10. Harrison Burton has been a fun story, but I fear this book ends in the round of 16. Finally, the 2 winless drivers, Ty Gibbs. He's a total wild card these playoffs. Doesn't have a win this season, but has had some good speed lately. He ran right there with his teammates in the top 5 at Bristol in the spring. Didn't save tires quite as well as the vets. He has a couple of top 5s on road courses this season, so watch him at Watkins Glen. And he just scored a top 5 at Daytona, so watch him at Atlanta. Will his inexperience catch up with him, or can Ty Gibbs put some real pressure on the top championship contenders? Finally, Martin Truex Jr. He finished 2nd at Bristol in the spring, historically been great at Watkins Glen, but he limps into these playoffs with 5 straight finishes outside of the top 20. 7 of his last 8 finishes have been outside of the top 20. I fear Martin Truex Jr. has already mentally checked out. Mentally, he is retired. He is on a fishing boat somewhere. He only has 4 playoff points, which ties him for the fewest of anyone. Outside of Atlanta, I think this round shapes up pretty well for Martin Truex Jr. I just don't like the recent speed nor the recent results. But now comes the hard part. Got to cut this 16 driver field down to 12. My first 4 out: Austin Cindric, Chase Briscoe, Harrison Burton, and Martin Truex Jr. I know the historical data says Truex should sneak through this round, but the recent data, the recent lack of performance has me skittish. Harrison Burton, it's been a fun ride. He doesn't get past this round. Same with Austin Cindric. He could have a big day at Atlanta, but that's what it's going to take for me to push him through to the round of 12. And Chase Briscoe. Maybe Ford will turn their laptops back on now that they're in the playoffs, but I fear Stuart Haas's lame duck status is eventually going to catch up with him. I don't think Briscoe moves on as well. So there we go. Let's move on to the round of 12. This round is extremely similar to previous years. We've got Kansas, a traditional 1.5 miles, then Talladega, the big bad super speedway of the South, and finally the Charlotte Roval. Drivers and teams should basically know what to expect from this round at this point. Let's go through the list once again. This round has been Kyle Larson's Achilles heel in the past, but I like his 1.5 mile speed. He won at Las Vegas. I know Darlington's not quite a 1.5 miles, but he just dominated there, leading over 260 laps. He also has a Roval win on his resume, just survived Talladega, and Larson with those 40 playoff points should move on to the round of 8. Next, Christopher Bell also has a win on a 1.5 miles this year and is also a former Roval winner. As we get deeper into these playoffs, though, you really can't afford any big mistakes. Again, I don't fully trust Toyota engines, and Christopher Bell, if you look at his last 13 races, he has 3 finishes outside of the top 30. That concerns me, though in those other 10 races, his average finish is 5th. So they're bringing the speed. I trust Bell to execute, and he also gets his crew chief Adam Stevens back atop the pit box for the start of these playoffs. Tyler Reddick, hey, he won at Talladega in the spring. He finished 2nd to Kyle Larson at Las Vegas in every single stage. That's a 1.5 miles, somewhat similar to Kansas. Shoot, and focusing on Kansas, 2311 Racing has won 3 of the last 5 Kansas races. Reddick's got 1. This stat also jumped out at me. Reddick has an average finish of 7th at the Charlotte Roval. That includes his starts with Richard Childress Racing, even as a rookie. That's pretty darn good. Next is William Byron. Byron's finishes have been inconsistent this year, but we said the same thing last season, and then he had an average finish of 6th throughout the playoffs. This round could shape up well for him. Byron already has a road course win this season. He was second at the Roval last year. He hasn't won at an intermediate track, but he does have top fives at Charlotte, Texas, Pocono, Michigan. So I do have faith in Byron and crew chief Rudy Fugle. Ryan Blaney won the inaugural Charlotte Roval race all those years ago. We know he's a great super speedway racer. Those cars are fast. My concern is Kansas. Blaney has some god-awful intermediate finishes this year. He was 33rd at Texas, 36th and 37th at the two Darlington races, 39th at Charlotte in the 600. He was 12th at Kansas in the spring, and some of those bad finishes were just bad luck. Take Darlington last week, for example, but that stat may be something worth watching. Denny Hamlin, like I said earlier, he's going to feel the loss of those playoff points here. Kansas being in this round may save him. He's a 4-time Kansas winner. He has a 3.1 average finish over his last 6 Kansas starts. Win Kansas, you don't have to worry about losing those playoff points, at least not for this round. I don't know what to expect from Chase Elliott here. He has a win on a mile and a half this year, but it was that roller coaster ride at Texas Motor Speedway. He's also a 2-time Charlotte Roval winner, finished top 10 here last year, earned a lot of stage points. So we'll see. He's also won the Fall Talladega race in the next gen era. So I could see all or nothing for Elliott in this round. Really don't know what to predict. Once again, I'm a little concerned with Brad Keselowski. We know he's great at Talladega, but if you're putting all your eggs into the Talladega basket, something has gone horribly wrong. Charlotte Roval has not been kind to Brad Keselowski. Road courses in general have not been kind to Brad Keselowski. Kansas may be his saving grace. His teammate Chris Buescher finished a close second to Kyle Larson at Kansas in the spring. Brad has runner-up finishes at other mile-and-a-half tracks like Texas and Charlotte. He was also 5th at Michigan a few weeks back, so I hope Brad has a big day at Kansas because I don't fully trust him at the other 2 tracks this round. Joey Logano, he's a 3-time Kansas winner, but his last victory came back in 2020 with a big spoiler on the back. Logano has a knack for winning this Fall Talladega race. He went back-to-back in 2015, 2016. Penske has won the Fall Talladega race in 6 of the last 10 years. We saw some of that speed at Daytona a couple weeks ago before we got crashed out late. Watch for Logano to make some noise in the middle of this round. Next, Daniel Suarez. None of his stats here jump off the page. He does have a top 5 at Texas, a mile and a half. He's got a road course win on his resume, but he only has 1 top 20 in his career at the Roval. Talladega is Talladega. I fear his lack of playoff points is going to hurt, especially in this round. Alex Bowman has some interesting numbers here. At the Charlotte Roval, his worst career finish is 10th. That's crazy. So even if Bowman enters that final race at a slight points deficit, keep your eye on him. And then finally, there's Ty Gibbs, who once again feels like the biggest wild card here in this wild card round. I remember he finished 2nd at the Roval, his final Xfinity Series season. He was 4th at the Roval in Cup last year. Talladega is Talladega. Kansas, Toyota should be fast. We'll see. I gotta make some predictions now. Man, 12 down to 8. Oh, this is where things get tough. This is where I start to look at who's been earning stage points throughout the year, who has the most playoff points already collected. Every couple of points is going to make a huge difference in this round. My 4 eliminations are Brad Keselowski, Daniel Suarez, Alex Bowman, and Ty Gibbs. Brad Keselowski might be the hottest take of this group. I know he's great at the drafting tracks, but so much is out of your control there. I can't fully trust Talladega. Some folks may be surprised I have Joey Logano moving through. Hey, Team Penske has been red hot in the playoffs the last 2 years. They turn it up. And of course, it is even year Joey Logano. He's got to make a deep run, right? It's written in the stars or on ancient tablets or something. Now we're cooking 16 down to 8. Let's talk about this round of 8. Didn't they used to call this the Eliminator round? Remember when the rounds had catchy little nicknames? Las Vegas, Homestead Miami Speedway, and Martinsville. So we have 2 mile-and-a-half tracks and then the short paperclip. Go back to the spring. Hendrick Motorsports cleaned up at Martinsville. 1, 2, 3. But once again, as we've seen in this round in the past, every single playoff point that you start with is extremely important. So let's rock and roll. Kyle Larson will start at the top once more. I already mentioned he won at Las Vegas already this season. He was 2nd in that Hendrick Martinsville sweep. And we know how bad fast he typically is at Homestead. If he can get through that wild card round of 12, I think Kyle Larson is a shoo-in to advance to the championship 4. This round sets up so nicely for him. Ooh, but what if he hits the sand barrels again? Look, he had already won Las Vegas last year. He was just going balls to the wall. I don't think he makes that same mistake if he's not already locked into the championship four. So I'm not too worried about Larson in this round. Next is Christopher Bell. This round makes me nervous. He should be fast at Las Vegas, but if you go back to the spring race, he had himself a day. Not in a good way. He spun out at least twice that I can remember. His intermediate performance has improved since then. He won, albeit the rain-shortened Coca-Cola 600, led a bunch of laps at Nashville before crashing, just finished third at Darlington. And don't forget, Homestead Miami in this round, Bell is the defending Homestead Miami Speedway winner. He's also proven himself in the clutch at Martinsville in the past. The 20 has also been really fast at the short flat tracks this year, so that makes me feel a little better. Tyler Reddick. Again, he finished second at Las Vegas in the spring. He's been to the round of 8 before, but if you recall last year, it was Martinsville that did him in. They were just slow, ran outside the top 20. I think he spun out eventually. It was kind of sad, honestly. So I look for Reddick to win either Las Vegas or Homestead. And both are extremely realistic. Reddick has won twice at Homestead in the Xfinity Series, and he's finished top 5 in 3 of his 4 Cup starts there. Shifting to William Byron, I expect him to be great at Martinsville, where he won in the spring. It's hard to poke too many holes in the 24 team. I guess I could point to their inconsistency over the summer, but like I said, they did the same thing last year and turned it on for the playoffs, got to the championship 4. So I'm not even sure I can use that as a criticism. I guess there is one stat that bothers me, and it's that William Byron only has 1 stage win all season. What? Looking at Ryan Blaney, he was on fire during this round a year ago, finished first, second, and 6th. He led almost 200 laps in this round alone, and he's entering these playoffs, I think, better than he entered last year's playoffs. This year, he has 2 wins, 7 top 5s. He's the 5 seed. Go back to this time last year, he had only 1 win, only 4 top 5s, and he was the 12 seed, if I recall. Blaney is carrying more speed into this year's playoffs than he was last year. That could be scary for the competition. Denny Hamlin. Oh, Denny. Something always seems to go wrong, and it's usually this round. The Hail Melon 2 years ago. Last year, he was running top 5 at Homestead, looking good in the points when the steering snapped. Even a strong third at Martinsville the next week wasn't enough to move Hamlin into the championship 4. Again, every playoff point matters. Last year, he was the 3 seed with 25 playoff points. This year, Denny is the 6 seed with 15. Again, he may collect more playoff points during the rounds, but this is what he has right now. Maybe the bad stuff has already happened to Denny Hamlin this year. Maybe that massive engine seal penalty was the bad stuff. Maybe it's smooth sailing the rest of the way. Hamlin is tied for the 2nd most wins this year, 2nd most stage points earned. If he can finally avoid the choppy waters, I think Hamlin has the speed to advance past this round. Chase Elliott, meanwhile, does not have enough speed right now to make it to Phoenix. Chase Elliott's year has been defined by consistency. He didn't have a DNF until Daytona a few weeks ago. He opened the season with 19 straight top 20 finishes. Ridiculous. The problem is, to get out of this round, you need to have top 5 speed. And what did I say earlier? It's been like 2.5 months since Chase Elliott's last top 5. Of these remaining drivers, he has the fewest laps led on the season. He's also earned the 2nd fewest stage points of these remaining drivers. Unless Elliott and Alan Gustafson have something big up their sleeve, and Hendrick is fast at Martinsville, I think their season comes to an end here in the round of 8. Lastly, I know Joey Logano has a knack for winning in even-numbered seasons, getting all the way to the championship 4, but this season has just felt different. They have not consistently finished well. Their 1 points-paying win came after 5 overtimes at Nashville. Logano's strength has been short tracks this year. He was 2nd at Richmond in the spring, was leading on the last lap at Richmond in the fall. He was 6th at Martinsville in the spring, won at North Wilkesboro, the All-Star race. But Martinsville is the only short track in this round. I know Joey has won this race before, but with 2 mile-and-a-halfs in this round, I think there's going to be a lot of pressure put on Joey at Martinsville, and that's not a place I want to be put under pressure at. Ask Tyler Reddick last year. Ask Kevin Harvick in 2020. I don't feel great about Joey Logano getting past this round. So now we have to make 4 more eliminations. This is tough. I showed some of my hand already. I think Chase Elliott and Joey Logano will get eliminated in this round. The next 2 are tough, but I think William Byron and yes, Denny Hamlin see their seasons come to an end. Again, it's hard for me to point out any obvious flaws with Byron, but that lack of stage wins tells me there's some sort of lack of overall speed. That concerns me. And Denny Hamlin, I said this recently, I feel like the vibes are all a little out of whack right now. I think that engine penalty really demoralized Denny. I don't think he's entering these playoffs quite as confident as he has in the past. All during media day this week, it felt he was being asked about the charters, ownership. I'm not sure he's fully locked in, fully focused. I get that, the round of 8 is 7 weeks from now. Like, there's a lot of time between now and these final eliminations. Things can change, momentum can shift, but I just don't have the confidence. He hasn't won a race, sealed the deal since April. If Denny was still the 2 or the 3 seed, maybe we're having a different conversation, but he'll be the 6 seed at this point. I don't love those odds. So those are my eliminations, which means my championship 4 are Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick, and the defending champion Ryan Blaney. So Logano, Truex, we won't see a new championship 4 appearance record holder. A lot of young guys. Larson, this would be his 3rd championship 4. Same for Christopher Bell, it would be his 3rd in a row. Reddick, it would be his 1st. And Blaney, it would be his 2nd in a row. He's 1 for 1 so far. 1 Chevy, 2 Toyotas, and a Ford. So pretty well balanced there. Phoenix Raceway is typically a track position race. You need to have a good pit crew. That's what helped win Kyle Larson the 2021 championship. Restarts can be crazy, fanning out 4, 5, 6 wide. A couple years ago, we saw Elliott and Chastain, both in the championship 4, make contact on a restart. Ryan Blaney obviously won the championship last year, but remember, he didn't have the fastest car in that race. Ross Chastain actually won that race. Looking at Tyler Reddick, this is his 1st championship 4. He has the least championship experience of anyone. He has won 2 championships in the Xfinity Series, but the challenges of Phoenix Raceway are very different than Homestead Miami Speedway. That's where Reddick got those wins. Christopher Bell has championship 4 experience, but last year we saw a brake failure early in the race end his run, heartbreaking. And Kyle Larson, I think he is the fastest driver of this group, and I think the 5 team has consistently been the fastest team throughout the season. You can typically rely on them, but I'm not sure Phoenix is in their wheelhouse. Larson last year seemed to be getting more than the car was capable of and still didn't have enough to chase down Ryan Blaney. So making my championship pick, honestly, is a lot easier than I'm making it sound. Christopher Bell will win his 1st ever NASCAR Cup Series championship. I'll get my worries out of the way first. Yes, I am worried about Toyota Racing Development's engines. I am. How could you not, with how many failures they had over the summer, the seal penalty with Denny Hamlin? How could you not be worried? But that being said, engine failures are still rare in the Cup Series. I don't think they'll have a similar brake failure at the same track 2 years in a row. If I'm ranking these 4 based on Phoenix Raceway speed, Christopher Bell is by far and away the favorite. He won at Phoenix in the spring, led 50 laps. He nearly led 150 laps at New Hampshire, a similar flat 1-mile track, and won there. Bell led 60 laps at Gateway, which often gets compared to Phoenix, and likely had that win locked up if not for a technical issue. Bell finished 6th in both Richmond races, led over 100 laps. Combined, nobody has been faster than Christopher Bell at the short, flat ovals this season. I think that speed and performance will carry on into the season finale. I think Bell will have the fastest car, and if the equipment holds up, Christopher Bell will win his 1st Cup Series championship. That is my final prediction. Whew, what a journey. Thank you all for coming on this ride with me. We've gone through every single round, every single race, looked at the numbers. I had pages of stats I wanted to get to. Glad we were able to get through this marathon together. But those are my predictions. Let me know in the comments below. Who's your championship 4? Who's your champion? Do you agree with my eliminations? Do I have any hot takes? Let me know down in the comment section below. I'm excited to read the comments on this one. While you're down there, leave a like if you enjoyed this video and subscribe for more NASCAR content and commentary all year long. Playoffs are right around the corner. Things are going to heat up. And a big thank you to my Patreon supporters as well. The playoffs start Sunday at Atlanta Motor Speedway. USA Network has the race. I'll be here to talk about it afterwards. Have a wonderful rest of your week, folks, and good luck to your championship picks throughout the next 10 races.